Greg Ehrenberg here with Awesemo.com with another Prize Picks video, new sponsor. And by the way, guys, if you are trying out Prize Picks for the first time, make your first deposit using the promo code Awesemo and you get a $100 deposit match on that first deposit. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Prize Picks, I'm going to be looking at some of the over-unders for fantasy totals today. And this scoring works the same as the way FanDuel scoring works. So it's 3 points for blocks and a steal, -1 points for a turnover, 1 point for a point, 1.2 points for every rebound, and 1.5 points for each assist. So we have a weird situation tonight with the Lakers. It is an elimination game. They are down 3-2 to the Suns, and one of their most important players, Anthony Davis, is questionable to play tonight. Without Anthony Davis in the lineup last game, the Lakers got absolutely smashed by the Suns, but his status is still up in the air, and that creates a little bit of uncertainty in how we're going to project some of these Lakers players. But I do think this is a situation we could take advantage of. So one of the guys that stands out to me is Marc Gasol. He ended up starting the second half for the Lakers last game ahead of Andre Drummond. I think there's a chance he ends up starting tonight, but then more importantly, he could play a pretty substantial role tonight if Anthony Davis is not in the lineup. So I look at his current fantasy point total and I say, like, hey, if Anthony Davis is out, I'm going to expect a little more minutes to go towards Marc Gasol. That would lead me towards the over on that number. But if we ultimately find out that Davis is in, or maybe something like Andre Drummond continues to start over Marc Gasol, then I would lean more towards the under for Gasol on terms of those fantasy points. So a little bit of variance here, and something to definitely keep an eye on when it comes to the news. LeBron James is in a very similar situation to Marc Gasol tonight in terms of the status of Anthony Davis is going to greatly impact how I view LeBron for this slate. So when Anthony Davis is off the court this season, LeBron James scores 1.45 Prize Picks points per minute. And also when you consider the overall gravity of this game and how important it is for the Lakers, I mean, they're down 3-2 in the series. If they lose, their season is over. I think that we have to expect LeBron is going to play north of 40 minutes if Anthony Davis is out, especially, and given all those fantasy points he scores per minute with Anthony Davis off the court. I like the over on LeBron James if there's no Anthony Davis, but I would lean towards the under if Anthony Davis ultimately ends up playing. It's just one extra guy that's going to be in the Lakers lineup that LeBron would have to share usage with. Under 55.5 fantasy points for Damian Lillard tonight. That's not a number that anybody could really feel comfortable with. Damian Lillard just had one of the best playoff games we've ever seen. He scored nearly 100 fantasy points last time out against the Denver Nuggets. But keep in mind, that game went to double overtime. More likely, tonight's game is not going to end up going to double overtime. It's probably going to end up ending in regulation. And overall for the season, Damian Lillard averaged 46.52 prize pick points per game. And even though he is going to likely play significantly more minutes today than we saw him play most of the regular season, I think that expecting him to score 55.5, that's a really high bar. That would still be one of his better games of the season. And prior to last game where he really went nuts, the last couple of games for Damian Lillard were fairly pedestrian. 36.6 prize pick points, 41.9 prize pick points. A couple of games that are fairly well below the 55.5 number we need him hit today. So give me the under. If Damian Lillard gets hot, nobody's going to love that, except the numbers, a little bit of recency bias baked in. The Suns have a chance to send the Lakers home tonight. The defending champions are down 3-2 in the series to the Suns. This game should be played pretty competitively. And Chris Paul, he got injured early in the series. Not a massive concern for me at this point. He's looked healthy in the last couple of games, even though he left last games early with a similar shoulder injury. Keep in mind, that game was not competitive. The Suns ended up winning by 30-plus points. Had that game been more competitive, I'm pretty confident that Chris Paul would have been able to finish out the game. And if you look at Chris Paul's numbers for the season, he averaged 37.2 prize pick points per game. So this number for tonight, well below his season average. It seems like there's a little bit of risk with the shoulder injury baked in, maybe a little bit of concern there. Given what we've seen from the last couple of games, I think Chris Paul is healthy. I think he's ready to try to push the Suns on to the next round of the playoffs. My overall favorite pick tonight on Prize Picks is Facundo Campazzo under 24 fantasy points. So last game against the Portland Trailblazers, it went into double overtime. But one thing that was a little bit of concern with Campazzo was just his playing time. He only ended up playing 21.5 minutes, even though that game went into double overtime. Ultimately, down the stretch of the game, Denver favored playing Austin Rivers and Monty Morris over Campazzo. It's not to say that Campazzo is going to be totally left out of the rotation today. I still expect him to start, but I think this is a timeshare between him and Monty Morris. And with that in mind, it's pretty difficult to expect that Campazzo is a massive fantasy game. He isn't one of the better per-minute fantasy producers on the team. So I like the under here with Campazzo as he starts to cede a little bit of his playing time to Monty Morris. Now, that is going to do it for my top 5 picks of the day on Prize Picks. Guys, if you are new to Prize Picks, head on over to the site. Use the promo code Awesemo on your first deposit. Get a $100 deposit match on that first deposit, and good luck tonight.